Welcome to the AVRO Heritage Museum podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the third and final part of the conversation where Harry met Eric. For this episode, we were able to bring a third AVRO stalwart into the conversation, Steve Abbott, who, along with Eric, Harry and the late George Jenks, formed a team with inexhaustible energy, vision and passion, provided the driving force for AVRO heritage preservation from 1980 onwards, some 35 years before the museum opened in its current form. We hear about the early planning processes for the museum, including Steve's idea of the timeline of aircraft manufacturing, still very much present in the museum today and valued by visitors as a unique feature. Let's now hear Harry take up the story.
In 1980, I had a meeting with Charles Masefield, who was then production director, and he was really keen on preserving some aircraft. And it started off that we would start to preserve aircraft, and the first one we got to preserve was a Vulcan in 1982 at 603, which is outside. I retired then in 1993 and decided to devote my time to kind of getting guys like these.
Generally gathering together.
Gathering information.
Whatever could be, remained after the results of the fires, etc.
I had, in my office, I had a storeroom which was full of memorabilia. So we wanted to get this all together. Later on, in the 90s, I asked Peter, the general manager then, Peter Summerfield, for premises to store all our stuff and material that the others have got. And he gave me the derelict at that time, the old human resources building, which we then successfully made into a heritage centre. And it was so successful that it was quite good because the rooms in there, we had the Anson room, the Vulcan room, the 504 room, we had a general kind of hall with a variety of aircraft in. We had a meeting room at one end and the general hall at the other end, but we had the rooms in between. And it was so successful, and Farnborough, they were quite keen on it. Our headquarters at Farnborough, quite keen. And we persuaded them to, we needed another building for a museum rather than all the bits and pieces that we had in there. Luckily, the old fire station was coming available. So we were able, with the help of British Aerospace and not BAE Systems, British Aerospace, we got enough funds to get the museum going at the old fire station, all modified and everything. And I think Steve and myself were planning around the walls, didn't we? Steve was keen on doing a wall chart all the way around the timeline.
Still there?
The timeline, and we did the timeline, which is very successful, isn't it? And of course, since then, we've built up with the other things.
Timeline itself was magic because
the time.
I had Eric, who was early history, George Jenks and Harry were the mainstays of the history that people were forgetting. And it was so unique, the museum, that we agreed that it would be a story of manufacture and not of operations, because there's no other museum in the country that does that. And once we got that on board and told everybody, they all pitched in and supported us, and it was like a big happy family, like we were when we were there.
Well, yeah, that's one thing about AVRO, that it was a big family. We loved the family. We all got the various places we got to know everybody. Eric going around with his lot. Me, as PR manager, knew every department, had to go in every department to find out what they were doing. And it kind of, well, it was, like I say, it was a big family. And we've got a lot of not the family now, we've got a lot of luckily, we've got some ex-AVRO people who are there, but there are a lot aren't AVRO who have kind of come into the museum and helped to build it, and each with their own little their own speciality, like yourself and other people.
Passion from the very beginning was infectious to everybody, and everybody loved his attitude of actually looking after heritage. And it, like Charles Masefield, Sir Charles, he was our chief test pilot, and he actually brought the Vulcan in, and he was right from the very start, and still is.
And still is
very,
keen.
Very keen in support.
He's not well at the moment, but he's still keen on it.
At what point did it move to the idea of the trust and the organisation? Because originally, as you say, you got some real enthusiasts, and then
the factory was the target. The BA Systems saw our AVRO Heritage Centre being a benchmark for retaining AVRO heritage. And they were up for it, and they basically encouraged us to say, what do you want? And this is how we would fund it. And this is how you would have to operate. So they gave us the guidelines, and we took it on board. We formed a company, we formed the trust, and Harry, of course, was right in the very lead of that. And he knew the people that he could bring on board. And there was a lot of people from outside that were in business. Once they talked to Harry and saw that passion, they were like on a fish on a line, and he reeled them in, and he actually got them on board, and they're still on board.
They're still on board, although some of them are now sadly going, because of age. They're now dying off, which is a tragedy, really. When I think about the people that we've had, the knowledge of George Jenks, who they mentioned, George Jenks, who died last year, who had a fantastic knowledge from like earlier aircraft right through to now. And I can talk to George for hours, which we used to do on the phone. We had a chap called Gerald, then Maurice Peel, people like that who had an incredible knowledge of AVROs and the aircraft. Gerald knew the Lancaster interior better than anybody that I know, or people who've been
collection on his own. That he'd love to have on display, which is now in the museum.
Yeah. So there's lots of things like that. I mean, in my storeroom when I was the PR manager, I had Churchill's chair, Mr. Churchill's chair out of his AVRO York, and which I preserved. They wanted to throw it away once, and I wouldn't, I said, no, you can't do that. There was other things, because some of the people, not always encouraged it. We've had people who don't want this, I mean, we had one general manager who came to my office once, and which overlooked the airfield, and you can see 603, the Vulcan, was on the pad outside. He said, I want that scrapping. And
he found an excuse to get rid of the men that were actually preserving it and keeping
it right.
going. They got their own building, and he said, there's asbestos in that building, get them out.
I said to him, this particular general manager, I said, well, before that gets scrapped, you better talk to Charles Masefield, because Charles was then moved up into headquarters style. So anyway, I don't know whether he ever did or not, but it never got scrapped, and it's out.
Still there.
Luckily, it's outside now, looking all beautiful.
Running, they had it really working very well. They looked after it very well. And some of them are still with us.
Still, yeah. Sadly, they just, because of our age, of course, we won't be here forever. But the museum will. That's the thing. And it's when I walked in this morning with Terry. I mean, Terry came for me all the way up to 25 miles to pick me up, and to walk in there, and I think, oh, this is wonderful. This is just what we always wanted. And the the planning that went into it with Steve and
Well,
Eric
it was
and,
on the team.
yeah,
We planned. We were given a blank canvas. We got
yeah.
drawings of the new building. Then they would strip it down and give us this brand new building.
Yeah.
And it's 2011.
We used to have
Close the site.
we used to have meetings in sheds, didn't we, and kind of caravans and all sorts while that was being built. So we could put our input into what we wanted with some of the rooms. Because I remembered it as the fire station with things as it was
on the site.
Yeah.
Built in 1990.
Yeah.
When they built the new AVRO house, which was an all-purpose building at the front, they actually built it with the fire station in front of Harry's office, and they couldn't see the runway, so they had to have a brand new building. So that's how we came.
And yeah, so but I mean the thing about it, going back to my period, I was very lucky because of my position was to meet a lot of personalities like Princess Diana, Duchess of Gloucester, and when I'm going to Los Angeles, going on the aircraft with film stars who were well-known film stars, and so that was one of the boosts I said about the 80s.
He was the face of the company.
Yeah.
And he was
International.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was a handsome man. He still is.
Thank you, Steve.
Bless you.
Look at this.
Father Christmas now.
I
I would like to ask you a question. How much were you influenced in aircraft from your great uncle, your Uncle Frederick, who was one of the first of AVRO's influences?
Yeah, he was. And you have got his indentures, haven't you?
Yeah.
Signed by AVRO and Humphrey Burden Rowe. And believe it or not, I had very little to do with him, although it must have been the aviation interest that ran through, but I don't know. I only saw him a few times because he was my great uncle. I saw Jack more than him.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it got in the blood, didn't it?
yeah, it got him in blood.
In the DNA, isn't it? Yeah.
And Jack, yeah.
And the thing was that as people retired, they they gave us their old records.
Yeah. Yeah, I sent, as the PR manager, I sent a memo when we started the Heritage Centre at first. I sent a memo to all the managers saying, look in your cupboards, look in your old cupboards. And look, and we got lots of stuff from cupboards. The old cupboards where they chucked all the old, and thrown some of the old files in, and we've got them now in the museum, which is good.
I'm conscious you're dying for a drink now. Look, we're so grateful that you've given up that amount of time. I said you were AVRO royalty. That's certainly the case. It's been wonderful to listen to you. If you could come back, because I still think there's a lot to talk about. I've not talked about your book, so I'm sure there's a lot more. If you could, we'd really love that, wouldn't we, Frank? If it would be.
Yeah, all three of you.
Yeah. And at this point, we thought it was a wrap, but we're actually able to bring you a few bonus minutes as we kept on recording over lunch when Harry was able to meet up with an old friend from his early time at AVRO, Jeff Brown, the Lancaster veteran who joined the company in 1956. Jeff talks about the American aircraft that he flew after World War II, and then the conversation turns to Operation Chastise, or the Dam Busters raid, as it was popularised. And we hear about the highly significant role that AVRO played in adapting Lancasters to enable them to carry the upkeep mines, or so-called bouncing bombs. And finally, Harry talks about one of his heroes, an Oldham lad, squadron leader George Holden.
Ah, hello.
Here he is.
Here he is.
Oh,
The man himself.
my old pal. How are you?
You remember Harry?
Does he remember me? Do I remember him? So, how are you doing then? Still plodding on?
Getting a bit ancient.
Yeah.
In November, I shall be 100.
Yeah. So,
I've got to take things very
yeah.
slowly now.
Yeah.
Got my logbooks here.
Yeah,
Would you like to see them?
if I can find my glasses.
Post-war, as a gunner, I flew on the B-29
B-29. Washington, didn't you? Yeah. See, that always spoiled us for logbooks, when you only put the aircraft letter instead of the serial number.
What I did my pilot training.
The Harvard.
That's the cockpit of
Yeah.
the Harvard.
Harvard. I've flown in an Harvard in the back
Get
seat.
one of those. You heard of the bouncing bomb, which broke the dams. Well, pictures are hard to obtain, but although it's been removed from the secrets list, it's difficult to get information. That's the bomb pattern underneath the Lancaster.
Have you seen them?
That's the sort of damage it could do.
Yeah. You know, I went to the dams. There's a gift shop there, you know.
Yes.
Shows, and they're selling you pictures of before and after.
Yes.
You know.
That is a drawing of how the bomb was carried.
Yeah.
I pinched that from AVRO's when I was working there.
Barnes Wallis came to Woodford and he did his negotiation.
Yeah. You know, and the Germans knew all about it anyway.
Did they?
Yeah.
They captured
Well,
one, didn't
they
they? One of the
were
airplanes crashed on them.
trying to develop.
One crash, one Lancaster crash, and they got the mine complete. So they just took it apart and did all drawings for it like this.
You know the East Kirkby Museum, they've got a control column in a throttle quadrant. That is said to have come from that aeroplane that you'd recovered. Is that true?
Yeah, Sandy Jack, who was the chief inspector, Sandy Jack gave it to me to sell on behalf of his wife, so Dorothy. So I sold it, and it went to Brian Golding at first. And then Brian Golding sold it to Andy. Yeah.
I don't. If you remember when we had the Dambuster exhibition, we had a lady whose uncle was on Z-Zebra, the one that was shot down over the Ada, and she's actually donated that fragment of the aeroplane that's now on display. So that's the only bit of a Dambuster Lancaster that we've got in the museum, and it's on display down there now.
Yeah.
And she's. If you remember, Harry, some years ago, I showed you the letter from Guy Gibson, and then one from George Holden as well.
Yeah, George Holden. He was my idol.
Because from what I read, George Holden wasn't a particularly well-liked person. So
he wasn't in the squadron, but he was an Oldham lad, and it was always in the paper, you know, Squadron Leader Holden did so-and-so, Squadron Leader Holden did so. And he went on the Dortmund Ems Canal raid, and he got killed. And when I was injured, I went to the Bomber Command Cemetery, the 6,000 Bomber Command lads there in that cemetery. And I found his number, row number something, number 62. And I went to the grave. I said, "Hello, George." said, "Hello, I'm from Oldham." I thought, if anybody saw me, they'd think I was nuts. I said, "Hello, George, I've come to see you at last."
And that really is it for now. We are enormously grateful to Harry and Eric, and in this last segment to Steve, for giving up their time. It's thanks to their dedication, determination, foresight and ingenuity that the AVRO story lived on. Thank you for listening, and do join us for future episodes of the AVRO Heritage Museum podcast. In the meantime, it's cheerio from me, Chris Bezic, and please keep on listening. Bye-bye.
Make sure you follow us in your podcast app to ensure that you don't miss out on future episodes.